What's going on,
Falcons
Falcons
fans?
fans?
Hey
Pound
man,
for
this is
pound, ATL.
ATL. It's an exciting night tonight as we get ready and get closer to the Senior Bowl, Collegiate Bowl, East-West Shrine Game, all of those beautiful college prospect games. Man, we're gonna start something new, Jr. and myself. Mock drafts. Get with other Falcon fan faithfuls to talk about their mocks and their early mocks and what they think what our team is going to do in this draft. And without further ado, man, I want to introduce y'all to one of our not only Falcon fan faithful, but also someone who is consistently in the chat for pound, D Sloan. D Sloan, what's going on, man?
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Doing pretty good, my man. Doing pretty good. Glad that you've decided to join us tonight in our inaugural, like fan first mock type situation. Um, we always talk about something. I said pre-shows, like we always talk about being, having our fans get their opinions heard, and we've done that throughout the years through the chat on the live streams. But me and Toby figured that this year would be, the time to take a step forward, try something a little different. So we felt like reaching out to some of the fans and the folks watching this. Y'all can just, if you want to do this as well. I don't know how many of these we'll do through before the draft hits, but you can always hit us up on Twitter or send us an email at, pound for pound at gmail.com. And that's fully spelled out. Pound, the number 4, pound, ATL at gmail.com. You can hit us up there, or you can hit us up on Twitter, and, we can try to work it out. But so I want to start it off and give the other folks a chance to kind of get to know you a little bit there, D. How long have you been a Falcons fan?
I've been a Falcons fan since the Tony Gonzalez era.
Okay.
Um, and and on up as well. I would say I was a fan since I was in middle school. Just basically the culture that they have. They had, back when Gonzalez was there, running White and all those follow players. It was such a great atmosphere of a team, and they really brought so much, and so much potential. Excuse me. And I've been a fan since then, man, and never left.
There you go. No, that's a good time. That's a good time. So I have to ask, since that time, what was your favorite Falcons moment? What was your favorite Falcons memory?
I would just say when we defeated. I go with one with defeating the Seahawks in that divisional round.
That was a good
I
one.
would say that because that was a good competitive game, and we had all our weapons in at that point in time against the good Seahawks team when they were that good back then. So I would say that moment right there.
Okay. I guess I have to follow that up with um, a bad moment. Other than the obvious, you could say the obvious one. Other than that, what's like your worst?
I'm gonna tell you something, Jr. I'm not gonna do that because I'm gonna tell you every time, whether if it's on different platforms and on you guys' show, when people comment, "Oh, the Super Bowl this, the Super Bowl that." Look, we got to pass that, man. Like it's too far along. We in a good common era. We at a position where we got to get the coaches acclimated with the players, and the players got to get acclimated as well. But we also got to get more talent as
There you
well.
go.
But I would say the bad season. I'd say we went 4-12
Yeah.
on Dan Quinn last season. That's what I would say.
Yeah, those are some tough ones because then, like at that point in time, you could still argue that the team was talented, and definitely was underperforming. So, speaking of dearth of talent, where we find ourselves at now, the reason why we are here, obviously, is to do D. Sloan's fan mock. So, without further ado, Sloan, you're on the clock. Got the number 8th pick. 7th pick already went off the board. We ain't even going to talk about like whoever you think is going to be there is there. So, you running up to the podium with the card. Who you got for your first overall pick?
Man, with that 8th overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft, man, we gonna select Jordan Davis, man.
Okay.
Davis. Because I'm gonna tell you something. They say, oh yeah, he's nothing but a run stopper. He's not just a run stopper. He also a pass rusher at the same time. When he can get past those guards in that center in those center too now and get up that field and create something good. With him and Grady in there in the interior together, man, that can create so many problems for opposing teams' offense.
Right. So you got Jordan Davis standing 6'6", 340 pounds. You got just this year alone had 17 solo tackles, 5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Now, it's not completely unheard of to have a nose tackle go 8th overall, but that's what he projects as at the next level is a nose, and in a well, crap, I got some stuff messed up. Anyway, in a 3-4 defense that Dean Pease likes to run. It's a base 3-4 is what he likes to run. In that base 3-4, you need a space eater. We tried to fill that out with, Jonathan Bullard, Mike Pennell. The best one, I think, was Anthony Rush. Guy off the streets did a serviceable job. But now you're talking about a Albert Hainsworth level, Vince Wilfork level defensive tackle to eat up space and take up those double teams. I myself, I feel like it might be a little high, and that's what a lot of people are going to argue but that's the great thing about this year's draft. You almost can't miss.
Yeah.
Toby, what are your thoughts on that pick?
Early on, I had him in my top 10.
You did?
But history has shown that a lot of nose tackles of his caliber don't go in the top 10, other than the exception to the rule, Derrick Brown, right, because the Panthers took him as high as they did a couple of years ago. I have him currently right now 12 outside of the top 10, because when you look at some of these guys that have gone outside of the top 10, like Danny Shelton, Vita Vea, guys like Haloti Ngata, all those guys went outside, at least no higher than probably about 16. They still went in the top 20. And that's the only reason I took him out of there. Now, he does have pass rushing skills, and it's going to depend on who he gets with that can unlock those skills, right, because we saw him with that burst against Alabama in this championship game, what should have been a sack. But we ain't going to go there. We're going to leave that alone.
Yep.
But he's a very explosive player that I think if he tests well, and I believe he's athletic and has the speed, it's probably going to be better and faster than what people think at this combine, and test well, I think he could make an argument to go in the top 10 like Derrick Brown did. But we'll see how they go after the combine test.
Yeah, I think taking Jordan Davis at 8 isn't necessarily a stretch, especially if you consider this is also the regime that took a tight end at 4.
Right.
So they've shown you there that they're not much. They don't have much consideration on traditions, I guess you could say. They're going BPA, and if Jordan Davis is that BPA on their board, I don't think Terry Fontenot would shy away from it at all. So,
no.
With that being said, I think it's a good pick. It could, it could set you up to be able to truly use Grady Jarrett as a chess piece, or if you end up having to move on from Grady, it gives you another elite defensive lineman, which you need.
Yeah.
Any other, closing thoughts on Jordan Davis before we move on, D?
I'm gonna say, even though we did pick a tight end, last season, I feel like that diamond in the rough interior pass rusher run stopper that we need to absolutely get. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure some good ones. Just like I also like Gary from Ohio State. He's good as well. I mean, it's good talent, but I feel like Davis, he has that drive, he has that motor, to push, to get whoever we put in when Grady's not in to look, let's go get this quarterback, or let's at least get this pressure to get this 3 and out. So I feel like when it comes down to it, it'll be a good diamond rough pick. But I also don't see y'all view as well.
Right. Cool. Well, we're gonna move on to the second round. I think we have the what is that? The 43rd pick, I believe it is. In the second round, I could be wrong on that number. After the first round, I lose the actual number of the pick. But anyway, so with the second overall pick in the 2022 draft, what you got for us, D?
Let's see. I got the more. Hold on. Hold on. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you good?
I got that player. Yeah, I forgot. I know I had the order, but I'm going to say Jerome Ford.
In the second round, I thought it was Chris Olave.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch it up
Okay.
since we do need a running back. Sorry about that. But since we need a running back, he's out of Cincinnati. He also had, even though they got blown out by Alabama in the semifinals, we're not gonna spend too much on that. But in that game alone, and also throughout the perfect season that they had, 12-0, he really was a factor in their running game.
Right.
And
yep. Jerome.
Jerome.
Yeah, Jerome Ford standing at 5'11", 215, had 1,319 yards, 19 touchdowns, averaging 6.1 yards a carry. Jerome Ford, I just did, because of you giving me this list. I was like, all right, I need to go ahead and put him on my list to take a look at as far as eval wise. He was on the list. I hadn't made it there yet, but I kind of made the joke after watching him, like he is definitely built for tough. And I know that sounds corny, but his contact balance is very nice. He's a tough runner, and I like that. He was a nice, pleasant surprise. I know he was a former Alabama runner that transferred to Cincinnati, so he could get his playing time, which is happening more and more, and that's fine by me. But I think that Jerome Ford is a nice pick. Now, I would think that myself, with the amount of running backs that are in this draft, you probably could have gotten Jerome Ford later in the draft, but yeah, he would be a welcome addition to the backfield. Toby?
Now I haven't gotten a chance to really look at a lot of the running backs, other than Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet from UCLA, which won't be in the draft this year because he decided to go back to school. But hey, taking a running back with the second pick, I don't see that as a bad thing. I think there is other running backs as well that could be at that 43rd spot. Now, me myself, early on, I'm looking at more of a wide receiver in play with the first pick. They're at that spot only because the talent there is so deep, just like the running backs, and we do need another receiver, possibly a starting number one wide receiver.
We're gonna need one. And that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess that segues into probably your next pick, there, D. And the second pick in the second round, this is the pick that we got for Julio Jones. It's not 100% set yet because the Titans are still in the playoffs. So we're not exactly sure where that one is going to land. But with your second round pick, who you got there, D?
I'm going to touch on what Toby just said, about a wide receiver that we do need, and we really do need a number one receiver. With that second round pick, the second pick, I'm going to go with Chris Olave from Ohio State.
There you go. So you got
Chris Olave.
Chris Olave. You got 6'1", 189, had 65 receptions for 936 yards, averaging 14.4 yards a catch, and with 13 touchdowns. Yes, he fits the mold. Might want a little bit bigger of a wide receiver, especially if it is true, in a sense that the body type that Arthur Smith might be looking for, that we have thought about more than once with Ridley's situation. If he's looking for a big body guy, you might want to look somewhere other than a 189-pound receiver, but the talent's there. And if you get this guy and you're committed to this guy, then I would imagine that you would switch up the type of routes that you would send him on.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'll say this: that if that happened and Chris Olave is there, that deep into the second round, I might cry from joy. But I don't know if he would be there that deep. But I tell you what, this guy is a very crafty route runner, and he runs every route on the route tree, and he is a willing blocker even at his size, because he played an offense where they did run the ball some with Henderson and the other guys that were there in that backfield. So he is a guy that's a willing blocker and has so much swag and a vertical threat on the field when he's there. And I can see him being used in a very advantageous way for Arthur Smith in that offense. And he would definitely take off some of the attention that Kyle Pitts gets down there in the red zone, because he's a red zone touchdown machine himself, and has been at least for the past couple of years. Now, I do believe that he had better chemistry with Justin Fields than he had with C.J. Stroud. And C.J. Stroud had a little bit more chemistry with Garrett Wilson, even though he still had 936 yards and 13 touchdowns. But I mean, man, that's a great pick. That's a great pick.
Good deal. D, anything else you want to add about Chris Olave?
Well, yeah, just to go back off what Toby just said, yes, he is great, and that can be a huge factor. And JR, I would say this. I feel like if we do get him, we also can pick up a bit by the wide receiver in free agency, maybe.
True. Yeah, you got guys like Alan Lazard who are out there, and Christian Kirk, I think, is going to be a free agent. So yeah, I mean they could definitely address that type of a need in free agency. So yeah, you're definitely right about that. So but moving right along, top of the third round, who you got there? Looking like you might have a potential heir apparent to MR2 there.
Yeah, better yet, with the height wise and weight wise too. But I know he got him over the weight. But I'm going with Desmond Ritter. Yep. From Cincinnati.
Okay, so you're going with Jerome Ford's quarterback. Desmond Ritter stands 6'4", 215, had 387 attempts for 3,334 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Oh, Lord, 30 interceptions. That would not have been good. Oh, man. But no, yeah, Desmond Ritter. Now, he's been a polarizing figure, as has a lot of these QBs in this particular draft. I have it on good authority by a lot of draft Twitter that you shouldn't draft any quarterback in this particular draft. But I will say this is something that me and Toby had talked about before. If you end up with an extra pick, say from trading a couple players, and if you end up with an extra pick this year, and you have a guy like a Carson Strong or Desmond Ritter sitting there in the third round, pull the trigger. Especially if you think that guy, given a little bit of time to develop, can be your guy. I won't be upset because you do have to eventually start thinking about the future of Matt Ryan. Like you could potentially if in the next year's season or so his play starts taking on a, not comparing him to, but a Tom Brady-esque play to where he looks like he's going to play well into his 40s, then you can do what the Patriots did with Garoppolo and trade him off for more assets later. So that's what I would do with a developmental type talent that Ritter seems to be, or that most of these quarterbacks in this draft seem to be. Is there any particular thing that that drew you to Ritter over some of the other quarterbacks?
I would say the more mobile he is, and then especially, once we do get that O-line, correct, once we get that addressed and we get that potential for him, he'll be great and precise in this progressions when he's in that pocket, standing and got a pass, and he got a good deep ball. And also, he's a good optional running quarterback as well. Good mobile.
Yeah, no, he does have some good mobility to him. Goes through his progressions well, and does have a little bit of that moxie or that magic, whatever you want to call him. It seemed like, that second half of those Cincinnati games, a lot of time was when, it became like Ritter hour and they, really turned it on and, come roaring back. And so that means, you could tell he's used to fighting in adversity. I know the Alabama game didn't go the way we wanted it to, but I mean they showed that they were at least from the game I watched, they were meant to be there. You know what I'm saying? They didn't just absolutely get steamrolled, and so that was good. Toby, anything you want to add about Ritter?
You want to see him crush it a little bit better against better talent. Georgia played against them the year before, and he didn't look so well in that game playing against them in that bowl game. And the other thing that kind of worries me about Ritter a little bit is sometimes he'll let the ball get away from him. You're going to have to make sure that you got bigger receivers like he had in Alec Pierce, who was another great wide receiver in this draft. That's going to maybe go in the third round, and he could slip into the second round. But I think Alec Pierce was like 6'3", a little over 200 pounds. But you want to make sure he has bigger, taller receivers. And, hey, if we ever do draft him, he definitely fit in. Kyle Pitts would make sure that he catches everything that is definitely thrown his way from a guy like Ritter. But he's a little bit raw in the talent, which I can see why third round, I would much rather have him there than in the second round.
True.
Or late in the first, which he's projected to go in.
Yeah, he's definitely projected to go higher, but we'll see how all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the vast majority of, draft Twitter does have him like generally like around a second, third round, kind of guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think that was pretty good. So on to the fourth round, Mr. D. We got our last pick. For these fan mocks, I have slated our guests to stop at the fourth round because we do want to be able to talk about every one of them, and we're not trying to drag on all night long. So if you're asking, well, JR, why aren't we doing the fifth and sixth? Okay, outside of Grady Jarrett, when was the last time a fifth or sixth round pick made a huge impact? So I figured it'd be much more fun to talk about impactful players. And to me, once you get to the fourth round, that's when you start to wane whether it's going to be a special teams guy or so on and so forth. Anyway, enough of preamble, enough setup. Who you got for us in the fourth round, D?
Man, I'll tell you, this guy right here that I'm picking with my fourth round pick, man, he's also can be a good impact. His name is Jeremiah Gemmel. He played for the University of North Carolina.
So Jeremiah Gemmel, linebacker for the University of North Carolina, stands 6'1", 225. So this is more of that lightweight, like hybrid almost, safety size. But anyway, he had 43 solo tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, a sack and a half, 1 interception, and 3 pass deflections. So he's an active player. Like, that's one of the things I look for. I know stats don't always tell the story because, as we know, if you were just to look at Foye Oluokan's stats right now, he's got every tackle in the league. But
yeah,
that doesn't necessarily mean he had a stellar season. Now, granted, Foye did have a good season, but what I'm getting at is that you can't just always look at just stats, right? You have to follow it up with film. But the stats do show that he's active with tackles for loss, interceptions, pass defense. That shows he's all over the field. And that's what I like to see out of a linebacker. Now, is there any certain thing that drew you to Jeremiah?
I'm going to tell you something. This guy right here, is a native of Noonan. I play ball with the guy, and he is great. He is awesome. But I'm going to tell you something. He also can play that edge rusher now at the edge. He can be used at that linebacker, that hybrid, linebacker position as well. So he can go either way. So I feel like within that defense, he can fit good with Pease because Pease like to use those young guys. More like him and maybe a package with him and Michael Walker.
Yeah, okay.
That'd be a good little package. Basically, he's sideline. He's relentless. He's gonna go where that ball is and he's gonna make a play. But I also think that's the reason why he will be a impact guy.
Yeah. And guys like that, they tend to make an early name for themselves on special teams, in those gunner roles. And he sounds like a guy who could easily fill that, make an early impact there, and then transition into some play on the field. Well, man, that's a pretty good set of picks. That's 5 solid names right there. That if we came away with those, I'd feel pretty good. Going into the 2022 season, that we are at least restocking our roster. Toby, what do you think?
Yeah, same thing, man. I think those are great picks that can make an impact, especially the Chris Olave and Jordan Davis. Picks, because those could definitely have an impact day one on this team. If that draft were to happen. So, man, I definitely appreciate you sharing the picks with us, man, and we're glad to have you on tonight.
Mr. Sloan, we very much appreciate it. We appreciate all your interactions. We appreciate you being open to the idea of putting your face out there. You got a Twitter handle or something you want to throw on out there for everybody?
Hey, everybody can reach me at dsloan96 on Twitter. dsloan96.
There you go. And as always, I'm at Grim1128, GRIMM1128. Toby D.
Toby D 1991.
And y'all folks, y'all keep an eye out going further with these fan mocks. I don't know if we'll do them every week, but they'll be popping up as we move through this draft season. This was a lot of fun. And again, D, we very much appreciate it. And as always, Falcons fans, win? What are we saying nowadays? We got to come up with a new one.
I don't know. We got the off season, so we'll
figure it out.
Either
way,
the off season is over.
Appreciate y'all.